Hey guys, how you doing? It's been a while. Recently, I took a trip to Las Vegas and I went to EVO for the first time, Evolution Fighting Game Championships, and it was really, really awesome. It was a really great time. It was everything that I'd really hoped and expected it to be. So I wanted to tell you about that. I don't think that people necessarily know so much that I've been following, and I've been very much attached to the fighting game community, especially Street Fighter, over the last maybe 10 years or so, because I don't broadcast it so much. But if you've seen some of my older videos, I do have a couple of hints where I talked about Street Fighter and all that and why I like it. So for example, my review of Samurai Shodown 2, I talked about how I used to play Street Fighter back in the arcades. So basically what happened was my dad would give me $5 every week, and he'd drop me off at the arcades. And I'm telling you, that was just, there was so much fun packed into those weekends, that I really feel this might sound kind of funny, but I feel like it's part of my life's work right now, is to do what I can to capture that feeling, that feeling of fun that I got from the arcades, and share it with future generations, because the arcades now, they're just not what they used to be. And I'm going to talk about that more a little bit later, but for me, like I said, that's how it started out. And my dad would give me these, $5 every weekend, and I would always try and save it, but I just couldn't. And the number one game that took my quarters away, besides Samurai Shodown, was Street Fighter. And it's more than just a game. It's really taken on this life of its own. The whole idea of Street Fighter, of these really strong fighters coming from all different parts of the world to fight and prove who's the strongest. There's this meta behind the game where that actually happens in real life. So when you go to a fighting game tournament, there's really people from every country, represented, because there's so many strong players all over the world getting together. So it's the only game that kind of generated itself in reality. So there's something I find just so fascinating about that. So anyway, I got started with watching the Street Fighter community, especially after there was a documentary series by a guy, a YouTuber named Nostalgic Gamer, and I feel like that person, I'm hoping that person is still out there doing videos, making things, but I've never heard anything else from him except for that. And it was so good. It was such an amazing series. It taught me so much about the background, what had actually happened. Because, the games come out, and if you're a game player, if you're not a really avid player, you're gonna miss a lot of things. Like different versions of the games, improvements, Street Fighter, then Street Fighter Championship Edition, then, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and all, Super Turbo, and all those things. So those videos, they basically, it was the Street Fighter retrospective is what it was. And of course, in that, he talks about Moment 37. Moment 37, again, I think that I saw this series in 2000, maybe 9 or so. So it's already been almost about 10 years that I've been watching Street Fighter tournaments. But EVO Moment 37 is the kind of thing that just makes you an instant fan if you're not. If you really realize what's going on as far as what happens in that moment, then you realize just how amazing fighting games can be, how they can push human potential, to the limits. It's really an amazing thing. So for those of you who don't know, I'll just explain it right now, and I'll let you see, EVO Moment 37. So if even if you're not a fan of fighting games, I'll just explain the basics just so you'll understand it. EVO had been going on, I think it began 2002, as far as like calling itself, EVO. There's all kinds of fighting game tournaments, but that's the one, and the person who wins that, like, that's the main, that's the main tournament, and the person who wins that is generally accepted as the world champion. Okay, so that's what everybody really gets ready for, and it had been going on for a couple of years. It was really, everything was recorded on like really, shaky kind of camera work. It wasn't as professional, it wasn't as built up as it is now. And 2004, there was this really amazing match between Daigo Umehara, who we're going to talk about a little bit later, whose manga I have, by the way. Daigo Umehara and Justin Wong. And this was in Third Strike, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. So, again, if you don't know anything about it, let me just like break it down in simple terms so you'll understand when I show you the video in just a minute. That moment, what happened was Daigo was playing Ken, and Justin Wong was playing Chun-Li. And in that game, Street Fighter, like Third Strike, to understand it, what you have to understand is there are normal moves and there are special moves. So a normal move, like a normal, punch or a kick, if you block it, you take no damage, right? Special moves, like a Hadouken fireball or something like that, even if you block it, it takes a little bit of damage off you, called chip damage, just like a little tiny bit. But if you're down to like the very, very last part of your life, it could kill you. So that was the position that Daigo was in at the time. He had no life, and if he took a single bit of chip damage, he would die. And Street Fighter Third Strike has this special mechanic called the parry system. And what it means is you have to anticipate your opponent's attack. And if you anticipate it, if you push forward on the joystick within like one frame of animation of them inputting like an attack, then your character goes into this special animation. He'll flash blue, and then like he'll block in this certain way that gives you like this frame advantage. Like it gives you an advantage on blocking. So if you were to attack him next, you would have like a frame advantage, right? But this was a super move, which means it hits you many, many times. And so what Daigo had to do was he had to parry every single hit in the super. And the skill it takes to do that is just so amazing. Like the preparation, the knowledge of, like how many hits, and the precision to move your joystick forward in exactly those motions. It's really, really amazing. And that's like, that moment is basically what summed up why people love fighting games so much. And it was like just one of the greatest moments in just esports in general. So I'm going to show it for you now just so you can see what it was and, why it was so great.
Rare footage of Daigo actually angry. Justin's turtle style. Overcome Rao. Now on the verge of putting Daigo down. 1-0.
So that was pretty amazing. And after that, like after watching that and after watching all this Nostalgic Gamers videos, I don't know, I felt like I too could also be a YouTuber, because if you've ever seen those videos, the guy's production quality is really good. He can produce really good, but his voice is not like, professional announcer level type, energetic voice. It's kind of like mine. It's like not so energetic, not like an announcer or something like that. But, if you have enough, you can do it. And that watching his videos kind of made me like in the mood to do it. So I'm hoping that the guy is still like, out there making videos, because that Street Fighter retrospective was just awesome. But anyway, I do want to talk a little bit about arcades before I talk about my trip to EVO. As I said, arcades today, they're just not what they used to be, and I'm not really sure why it is. I'm not really sure if it's maybe just something changed with the market, When I was a kid, and again, like, I think that, like, the early to mid 90s, they were just absolutely the best time to go to arcades. And it's like, there are arcades out there right now, but they're just not the same. They're mostly built towards, like, getting tickets and winning prizes and things like that. So they're kind of amusements for, I would say they're more amusements for kids who don't understand a quality arcade game versus like a regular, arcade game. And if they have fun with it, if they get tickets and they win prizes, there's certainly nothing wrong with that. Like, I take my son to, there's a local arcade near me that's actually kind of famous. It was in that movie, why can I not think of these when I'm on camera? The Karate Kid. So, but again, it's changed a lot. If you watch like one of my favorite series, which is King of Fighters, you'll see this progression of arcades, and they just keep getting better and better. KOF, and it was like one every year, 94, 95, 96, going up to like 2000, I think 2004, and then after that, they didn't make one every year, but still the quality was, pretty good. And a lot of shooting games from that time, a lot of the games that I play, like on my long plays on my channel, they were just so much fun. Like, especially the Neo Geo, especially SNK. That's what I want to share with the world, is my great love. Like my twin loves, Capcom and SNK. But I don't know why, but the quality of games just got worse. Maybe it was just something about the market. I think this is just like my kind of guess, and like, see if you're with me or not. A couple of things happened. Number one, I feel like after, like around that time, like after around the beginning of the 2000s, there was just this thing that happened where, and it was the same thing with movies. It's like there was a flood, like the market was just flooded with things. Because, they would make money. So, that's why they would want to put that much out there. And the quality, it just wasn't a thing. It was like, get it done on time, and just shove it out there, And I think that movies are kind of the same thing too. I remember like growing up through like the 80s and 90s, and I feel like at that time, the number of movies that would come out, the number of, I don't know, just people on the earth, it was at a perfect moment to where they would really try their best to put quality into what they did. And I feel like after the 2000s, after like CG took over, it's like, well, any idiot can do this. Let's just keep on churning it out and churning it out and churning it out, whether or not the quality is very good, So there's no one to blame for it. It's just kind of how, the market just ended up happening. And I think something similar happened in video game technology, to where, like, if you look at, say, like an older example, like, what is that game? In Japanese, it's called Spartan X. Just Kung Fu, right? Just regular Kung Fu. If you look at the arcade version, and if you look at the home console version, there's a very big difference. And the same thing for like a lot of things back then. That was why like the Neo Geo was so amazing, was because it had the exact same quality from the arcade to the console. That's why it was so expensive too, but the quality was there, and so, some people wanted to buy it. I think at that time it was a little bit too pricey to be affordable. But the thing is, you're getting arcade quality right there in your home, and like Neo Geo was the first example of that, right? But then as time went on and technology just got better and better, it's like there's no lack at all. You can have exactly what you have in the arcade at home. And so, like, for the people who are making these games, I think that for them, eventually, it's like, well, we can make these great big arcade cabinets, or we can just make the software and just put it and let people play, online in the comfort of their own homes. And I think that that's just where most people started putting their money into. So there's nothing to blame. That's just kind of how it is. But unfortunately, I feel like a lot of young kids these days, they just don't know how exciting. They don't know how fun, like how amazing the arcade experience is, or it used to be. Because right now I go there and I see just a lot of very sterile looking games, a lot of like sterile looking just like ways to get quarters out of your pocket without giving you a good experience, So you'll go there now and you'll play like Fruit Ninja, or that game where you just you're running through a maze and either you'll jump or you'll turn to the side, or something like that. I forgot the name, but it's got games like that are not bad, but they're just quarter munchers, They're just designed to get you addicted to putting quarters in them because, I want to do it one more time. Like, maybe I'll get some tokens out of it. But it's not a full fun experience. And I can make a list of amazing, like, arcade experiences that were from the 90s and 2000s, or, like, early 2000s. There are so many games that were just, like, amazing, like, from the arcade. So, yeah, eventually that's what I want to do, is I want to show people how fun they were and explain just how fun, like, arcades used to be. And if something like that can happen again, if quality could be, like, reintroduced, I would be all for it. Speaking of quality arcades, I want to give a shout out to, one of my students, my ex-students. If you're watching this, Mr. DJ, DJ Henry, if you're watching this, give me an email. I want to see how you're doing, bud. So, but anyway, that student of mine, this student Henry, he and I would talk a lot about arcade games, and he introduced me to a really good one. It's called like Retro. I think it's just called like Retro Arcade, and there's 2 places here in LA, and it's really good to just go there, be able to play arcades as they used to be. So there are some places like that. There are some, places that still cater to like what arcades used to be. They seem to be dying out, and there's not a whole lot of people who go to them. Maybe it depends on like the time of night or something like that, but hopefully some people are keeping arcades alive like that. I gotta imagine, like, they don't make them anymore, They don't make those great big, arcade machines for, like, the older games anymore, so I don't know how long it can go on. I don't know how long places like that can go on. Hopefully there is, if there can be a market for it, they'll start, like, remaking those things or making ones of greater quality. I would love to get out there and, like, see them, but I don't see them now. Anyway, though, let's get back to the actual, like, trip, because again, it was really, really fun. I went to Las Vegas when I was a kid. I think I was maybe like 10 or so. My dad took me out there with his girlfriend at the time, and because I was 10, like, my memories do not jive at all with what I saw when I was there now. I think that we went to Circus, and I think that there were arcades there to play, but I just vaguely remember. I just remember it was a hot trip. I did like the look of the nature around, because I like deserts, but, that's all I remember is, like, being in an unair-conditioned car, driving through the desert. just to see, a few things. Of course, I couldn't go into the casinos, so just my dad and his girlfriend would be playing what I'd be like in the hotel. So now seeing it again, I had these vague memories of, I think I saw something like this. Because a lot of the main strip doesn't necessarily change so much, right? There's still Excalibur, there's still Caesar's Palace, there's still Circus Circus, like a lot of the main ones. But now, like, seeing it all together, like when I drove down the strip, it was really, really fun. It was really, really cool. But I didn't have time to go into many. I just had time to go into, like we stayed in like a little cheapy hotel off to the side. And, we went into the Mandalay Bay where the event is actually held at. So during that time, I saw a lot of like people that I'd been watching for the past, again, like about 10 years. And it was really cool. I didn't necessarily go up to all of them and like, ask for a picture. I did some, and I'm going to show you some of those, but not necessarily everybody. But I'll show you. I'll show you pictures of who I talked to, just in case you don't know who they are. So the first one that I saw, and it was amazing. It was kind of a coincidence because, me and my son, again, who this is kind of all for, we got dressed in our shirts. We got ready. We went over there. But I think it's mostly marketed. It's not marketed so much towards kids. I don't recall seeing a lot of kids there. It was mostly, at least teenage to adult men, mostly. But of course there were some girls, like there were some like girlfriends of theirs. But there was very, very few kids. And then I kind of realized why. Like, it's kind of a marathon, If you go there for like the fighting game championships, they do one by one by one. And each one takes a couple of hours. And Street Fighter is the main event, so it's at the end of the night. But up until that time, they have the other ones go. And if you're not familiar at all, especially if you're a little kid, little kids just want to get up and move around and stretch and all that stuff. And so sitting there, like, calmly watching a fighting game, I mean, he did have fun. Like, he was telling me he likes it, he wants to come again. But understandably, for a kid who's like as young as he is, it's a little bit hard. So coincidentally, I was texting back and forth with my wife, and he needed a break. So she didn't come in, so she was outside. So I, went out to give him to her, and they said they wanted to get some food. So we, walking out, went to a restaurant, and then on the way, in the lobby, there he was. There was Daigo Umehara. So the one who did the parry that I showed earlier. He was there, and he was on his phone, but I thought, let me just, see if I could sneak it in. So, as soon as he got off his phone, I asked him in Japanese, hey, is it okay to, shashin no totemo desu ka? And he's like, he just kind of like nodded his head and kind of came over, and, he was really nice about it. I didn't get a chance to like actually sit there and talk to him because he seemed like he was kind of busy. Also, next to him, I knew that he was a player, but I didn't like know his face at first. It was Gachikun, and Gachikun was actually still in the tournament. By that time, it was top 8, so Daigo had already been eliminated. So he wasn't going to win the tournament this year, but he was, he's there, and he's like always in the community. So first it was Daigo that I saw, and again, he was there with Gachikun, whom I didn't get a chance to talk to because I forgot his name. I didn't want to go up to him and say, hey, I know that you're a player, but I forgot your name. After we go out, we, get some McDonald's. My son's going to stay out, so I come back in. I'm coming back in the lobby, and there are these two ladies wearing kimonos. And one of them appeared to be Japanese, the other one I couldn't quite see, and I keep on walking, and I look back, then I saw the other one's face, and it wasn't a Japanese girl, it was a white girl. Turned out, I was like, oh, that's Guilty, who's a strong Dhalsim player. And I don't know, at that time I didn't like go over and talk to her, but another one that I saw. I'm coming back in, and then on the way out from the front gates, I see Armada. And Armada is like he's like a the world champion, or at least former world champion of Smash Brothers, and I actually saw him play before. So he didn't make the championship this year. There was a dude that I was sitting next to, and I think it's really funny. Like, for me personally, Asians, they're like my specialty. Like, I know Asians a lot. I know Japanese most especially, but I know Asians and I know Asian culture, and so it's really funny to me when I see an Asian who isn't acting typically Asian. Like, this is a really tall guy. I think that he was Korean, but he's just he's just American through and through. He's like a fighting game guy through and through. And he was a nice guy. He was a nice kid. Like, I was, asking him some questions about things I didn't understand about Smash. Because I hate to say it, I don't like Smash Brothers. I just don't like the concept of knocking somebody off of a platform in a fighting game. Maybe it's just a stodgy part of myself, but I like, like life bars and like draining down life bars to the end. I don't know. I don't like, Smash Brothers so much. So we saw it to the end, but I wasn't super interested, And it was at that time that my son was also getting kind of antsy, so we left. So anyway, I saw the Championess Armada. I saw Gutex on the, basically like coming in. And I didn't, I was right next to the guy. I was literally walking next to the guy. But again, another confession I'll make is I don't like the guy so much. I don't think that he's a bad guy. I don't think that he's I don't know, he seems to be like he might be a little bit arrogant. And that's kind of funny because he's no longer like one of the best. He's been surpassed a long time ago as like one of the best players. He never really rates high in tournaments. But he seems to have this air about him to where he thinks that he's really great at Street Fighter. He's greater than like me. He's greater than like, most other people, but anyway, that's how I was feeling. Continuing on, I was sitting there, and I saw L.I. Joe, Long Island Joe. I was just like, kind of like looking around, look over, and then like there he is, like checking his phone. Again, didn't talk to him, but he's a good guy. He was the only American in top 8 in 2016. So he's a pretty accomplished player. After that, like sitting down for a long time, even I get antsy. So I walked up, started walking around just to kind of get the blood circulating. And as I'm walking around, I see low tier God. And if you know who that is, man who needs no introduction. Yeah, he's the guy in the fighting game community who's kind of like always like the GOAT. He's kind of put on because I could like talk for hours about low tier God, about the things that he does wrong. He's a decent player, but he's got this terrible attitude. It's really hard to watch his videos because he's so, how could I say, what's the best word? He won't take responsibility for his actions. He's that kind of person who always needs to say it's somebody else's fault. It's the internet, it's lag, it's my stick, this person's always grabbing, he's always blaming somebody else. So it's kind of hard to watch one of his videos, like most of the videos that you'll see on Low Tier God, they're just like trolling, because, yeah, the guy just won't take responsibility. But in either case, the next and final two, and these ones I did take pictures with, I did see and talk to a little bit. My son wanted to come back, and this is after DBZ Fighters. This is just before the final. And I'm going to go out to meet my son. And I look over, and there is Yoshinori Ono. There is the guy who made Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. The guy who's like, the maker, the head person in charge of like the Street Fighter and the Street Fighter community. And because he's like he's a businessman type, what can I say? Because he's an executive type, he's not the kind of person I think that gets mobbed by adoring fans like a Daigo or like one of the players would. But if you know who he is just by his face, like, you know, he's definitely one person that I wanted to meet, and I was really, really happy to meet him. In fact, he said, like, wow, your Japanese is really good. Nihongo umai desu ne,って言ってくれた. So, I was pretty happy about that. Yeah, I got to shake his hand, took a picture with him, and he even explained to me the schedule. He was a really, really nice guy, you know, holding that little Blanca figurine of his, which, if you check his images online, he's always there with his little Blanca thing, I guess. Like, that's his favorite character. So I was really happy to meet him, and then later on, you know, my son's sitting with me, then eventually he has to go to the bathroom. Go up to the bathroom, and as he's going, like, I'm just waiting for my son. I'm telling everybody else in line, yeah, go ahead, I'm just waiting for him. And then, like, you know, I look over, and, like, suddenly there I am face to face with PR Balrog. PR Balrog, again, if you don't know, he's a big, big name in the Street Fighter community. He plays a lot of other games, too. He plays, like, Marvel and things like that. But, yeah, if you look on, you know, EVO, if you look at his, like, tournament accomplishments, he's made top 8, like, in all kinds of games, you know, so he's a really, really great player. Really, really nice guy, so, like, he didn't mind taking a selfie and, you know, talking to my son. He was a really nice guy. Okay, technical issues aside. So I didn't stay for the grand finals of Street Fighter V. I didn't really stay for the final bit of it. But it's okay, like, I didn't feel any regret. Basically, the reason was my son was just feeling a little bit too antsy, you know, the whole day sitting there watching. So eventually he said, you know, let's go. And I was like, you know what? I met who I wanted to meet. I saw what I wanted to see. I enjoyed. I saw all kinds of things from different games that I didn't know, like, were so good, or, you know, just little bits and things that, like, bring a community together, like, that are online. I think it's really good when you can get those things, because they're so kind of rare, you know? So, like I said, I've been watching Street Fighter ever since about 2000, maybe 9-ish, you know, 2009, 2010. And it's just really cool when something comes together, you know? I'll give you an example. If you're in the Street Fighter V community, if you've been watching, then you immediately know what the phrase, "what are you standing up for?" means. Like, it's tied to a really funny story, and, you know, if you know about it, it's a kind of cool thing that, you know, everybody who's in the community, even if they're in different games, it's something that they all know. Like, this is, what are you standing up for?
And Trimarn, you had a very good performance with one of your players, I believe, at UFGT 8. How do you feel about that?
What are you standing up for?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a clip that we just need to go straight to right now so, like, we can understand exactly what's going on. Can we please roll this clip?
Good damage. That's exactly what he needed. Oh, I don't know. He wanted that. He's not dead. He's not dead. He's not dead. He's not dead. Oh, so smart. He was expecting an EX right there. Oh, will he do it again? Oh, there he got it. Oh, Wolf Crone is, look at this. Look at Ricky. What are you standing up for? What are you standing up for? Wow. Wolf Crone got, wow. UFGT 8. UFGT 8. What an amazing match to start out that top 4 with. I've never seen a fight for Rufus set like that. That was amazing.
And the dead angle doesn't bait it. Gets caught low again, has to burst immediately.
Full meter though, full meter! He's gonna have to do, oh he can't, no burst!
So smart!
Oh my
so
God!
Smart!
Genius!
So smart, he couldn't burst because of the super. But Washiga thinks it's over!
Locked down,
He won the last round! And the Ogawa doesn't care! He still got 65%!
Oh my God!
Washiga, no!
Washiga, not like this! What are you
standing up for?
Why?
Oh my God! Washiga thought it was over and stood up, and Ogawa gave him no remorse.
That is exactly what happens. Don't have celebration with pop off.
Oh my God!
Take it in, flex on him.
Unbelievable. Washige is going to be dreaming about that tonight.
So right now, you know, it's my whole life is just about my son. And it's just about passing things on down to him. And passing things down on to, you know, hopefully other people. You know, if you see like the things that I put on my channel, it's basically just what I love, you know, and it's just me trying to show what it is that I love to the world. I'm in that position of just passing down like what I know, what I've learned, and what I love. And arcade games, that's like the great love of my life. And that's what I want to show other people is really, really awesome. And that's why I think there's so much meaning in games like Street Fighter. There's so many, you know, things that carry over, like this character that comes from this game and is now put into this game. You know, a rumor about SNK versus Capcom suddenly manifests itself as an actual game. A rumor or a mistranslation, you know, leads to a character being in a game. But, you know, as time goes on, there's always the possibility that those things will roll back again. And so if I can contribute to it in the littlest bit, if I can share like what it is that I love about Street Fighter with anybody else, then I'm happy with that. So I hope you've enjoyed. If you're not a fan of EVO, if you've never been, it might be something you want to check out if you're interested. And if not, I won't want to say you're missing out, but, you know, for me personally, it's been really meaningful. And I think I'll just leave it at that. So, anyway, thank you for watching. 見てくれてありがとうございます。さよなら。